In a quiet, late-night laundromat, a tired line cook watches an office worker berate the overlooked night attendant over a broken dryer. He shocks the room by handing over his last $20 and giving up his own dryer, missing his bus, and risking his phone being shut off. The mood shifts, small kindnesses ripple through the neighborhood, and both the worker and the cook leave with more than clean laundry. Just a quick note before we begin, hit like, share this with a friend, and subscribe for more. Also, let me know in the comments which country you're watching from. It always amazes me how far these stories travel. At 10 p.m., the hum of dryers filled the corner laundromat. Warm air pushed out of the vents and smelled like soap and heat. The neon open in the window buzzed, and sometimes the O went dim. The night attendant dragged a damp mop in slow rows, the kind of careful that comes from practice. She was small and steady, maybe in her 50s, hair pulled into a tight knot. A thin gold cross flashed at her neck when she moved. A navy polo hung loose over jeans. A soft brace wrapped her right wrist. She paused to stick a folded cardboard square under a wobbly table leg. She had a smile ready for whoever looked up, which was not many. A man in a greasy black t-shirt and a grey apron pushed in with a blue laundry bag on his shoulder. He smelled like onions and heat from a flat top. He had a scruffy beard, a faded black cap, and scuffed sneakers. He headed straight for the change machine and fed it a 5. Quarters crashed into the tray. He nodded to the attendant. "Evening," he said, not loud. She nodded back and kept the mop moving. A roll of paper towels sat tucked near the register, and a little fan, and a taped-up drawing. The drawing was of a woman behind a counter with a braid and a big smile and a star in the corner. Someone had written "A Beulah" with a fat marker. On the TV above the soda machine, a weather map flashed with tiny clouds. No sound. A student in a grey hoodie typed on a sticker-covered laptop and bobbed her head to music only she could hear. An old man in a flat cap worked a crossword in pen. A young mother sat across 2 plastic chairs, and her toddler slept across her lap with socks half off. The cook liked this place because it was open late and stayed plain. He could move at his own speed. He fed his towels, watched the soap swirl, stood with his hands in his pockets, and felt the warmth loosen the tightness in his shoulders. At 10:17, a man in a blue suit blew in with the cold. He had a plastic basket on his hip, and that looked like his chest had been tight since lunch. His tie was half undone. A little light blinked in the earbud tucked against his jaw. He marched to a big dryer with a handwritten sign that read, out of order in thick black letters. He ripped the tape loose and slapped the sign face down on a folding table. "These signs are always on everything," he said to the air. He shoved quarters into the slot. The dryer stayed quiet. He shoved again. A dull clunk. Nothing. He turned pink. "You could at least tell people when a machine's broken," he said, looking at the attendant now. She put the mop in the bucket and walked over with her ring of keys. She pointed at the sign. "It's not working," she said. She sounded tired and calm. "I can see that," he said, his voice lifting. "I just lost like $3 because you taped a piece of paper and went back to your phone." She was not on her phone. A phone sat face down by the register. She looked past him to the machine and the slot. "I can show you which ones are hot," she said. "I don't need a tour," he said. He pushed the empty basket into his thigh and the corner dug into his suit pants. "I need my money back. I'm not paying twice because this place can't keep stuff working, and I have to be up at 5. Her eyes moved to the register and then to the owner's number taped under the counter. It was never simple to open the till. The owner counted every dollar. If she came up short, it came out of her. She opened her mouth and then shut it. "I can't open the—" His palm smacked the counter. Not a slap, but loud enough that the student looked up. The jar that said BUS in black marker rattled. The Abuela drawing's star curled at the edge. "I'm not leaving without a refund," he said louder now. "You can call whoever you have to call, but this is on you." The cook watched it all from his corner by the thumping washer. He folded one towel and then unfolded it. The old man stopped his pen midair. The mother lifted a finger to tell the toddler, "Shh," though the kid was still asleep. The hum in the room seemed to pull inward. The attendant tried a key in the dryer door, then another. They didn't fit. Her teeth pressed into her bottom lip like she was holding back a cough and words. She blinked fast. The keys shook a little in her hand. He stepped over. "I got it," he said. "Not big, not brave, just there." He fished out a folded 20, the good one he had saved for his phone bill. It was still crisp from the ATM on a better day. He put it on the counter with his fingers pressing it flat, like it might run away. "Here," he said to the suit. "This cover you." The suit stared at the money and then at the man in the apron, like he was checking for a trap. He grabbed the bill. "Fine," he said. "And the quarters?" The cook dug in his pocket and let a small pile of metal fall into the suit's palm. They made a soft, bright sound. The attendant opened her mouth again. She had a word like no, but it stayed behind her teeth. He pushed his own wet towels to the side and opened the hot dryer he'd been using. He pointed. "Use mine," he said. The suit hesitated and then switched his damp shirts over, one hand smoothing a sleeve like a habit he kept for control. The man in the apron slid his basket under a chair. His towels would wait. He dropped to a knee in front of the broken dryer, the one with the sign. He pulled a butter knife out of his apron pocket, its handle taped where the plastic had cracked at work. He eased the blade into the coin slot and wiggled. He tried to feel the catch give. Sweat beaded on his temple, though. The room wasn't that hot. A bent dime fell out with a thunk and rolled near his sneaker. He reached under, grabbed lint, and pulled it into a grey chunk and dropped it in the bin. He peeled a fresh strip of tape from the roll by the register and pressed the out-of-order sign back on straight. He wiped a splash of blue detergent off the tile so no one would slip. He checked the wall clock. The second hand was on the 12. The bus had 10 minutes. He wasn't going to make it now. The argument thinned out like steam. The student slid her headphones back over one ear. The old man tilted his cap back and went to 4 down. The mother rocked the sleeping kid and looked at the attendant with a tiny shrug that meant, "Yeah." The suit stood by the hot dryer and stared into the whirling circle like he could will time to give. He scrolled his phone with quick, stiff thumbs. "Whatever," he said to no one, and went quiet. The attendant stood there for a second, like someone had turned the sound on and then off again. She breathed. She looked at the man in the apron. She poured water from a pitcher into a paper cup and set it by his basket. "Thank you," she said. He nodded. "It's fine." He didn't look like he wanted a scene either. Outside, a bus chuffed up to the stop and then pulled away. The diesel smell slid in for a second when the door opened for a woman with a stroller. It left again. He noticed the small pill organizer by her register, the cheap kind with faded letters for days. He noticed how she pushed it half under a sales flyer when customers came close. He noticed the pink slip stuck under a magnet with electric printed in tiny type and a phone number he knew from his own mail. He saw the drawing again, the one with a Pavar, written heavy and proud. When she grabbed a gallon jug of bleach, she used both hands. Her wrist brace peeked from under her sleeve. She had a Tupperware of rice and beans behind the counter, with a spoon tucked in the foil. The food sat there like a plan people make when there's not much time to sit. He checked his phone. The screen was cracked in one corner. A spider of glass. A text from the carrier glowed. Payment due by 11:59 p.m. to avoid service interruption. He did the math in his head and came up empty. He thumbed the screen off like that could pause the clock. His sister had texted too. "Can you grab Nico at 3 tomorrow if I get stuck at the salon?" He typed yes and then backspaced it and typed "we'll see" and then sent a thumbs up anyway, because she always worked through breaks and never asked, unless she had to. The student in the hoodie got up and pulled the bent dime from the floor. She held it to the light, smiled, and dropped it into the BUS jar. She dug in her pocket and added 2 quarters, casual, like a stretch. The old man gathered the loose socks from the lost and found basket and lined them on the bench. Stripes with stripes, darks with darks. He whistled a tune made for slow chores. He didn't ask if he could. No one wondered if it was weird. The young mother, on her way out with the sleeping kid on her shoulder, slid a small bag of cough drops onto the counter. She tucked it under the ballpoint pen like a secret. The attendant saw it and didn't look up right away. She reached and put the bag in the drawer, next to a roll of quarters wrapped in paper. 2 days later, the out-of-order sign had a post-it stuck to it. Not her fault. Be kind. Call the number below. By morning, there was a printed sign with the owner's number and a line that said, "No cash refunds at night. Thanks." The strip of tape was straight. People started saying hi when they came in. Not everyone, just more than before. The suit didn't come back that week, or maybe he did and kept his head down. Another man in a suit came through and held the door for a woman with a laundry cart, like his hand found the habit of small help in the air. At the kitchen, after the laundromat, the man in the apron showed up later than he liked because he'd walked the 20 blocks. The chef side-eyed the clock, slid a bowl of soup, and didn't ask. The man ate standing, careful not to drip, and saved the bones for later. He scrubbed the grill slower that night, a steady scrape, like he had more patience stored than before. Back at the laundromat a couple days after, the broken dryer tumbled again with a low, healthy hum. The owner must have changed the belt. The butter knife in the napkin sat near the register. When the man in the apron came in on his next day off, the attendant handed it back, washed and dry. She'd even wrapped fresh tape on the handle. He walked home that first night with his sleeves rolled down and the air sharp. The city streetlights put halos on the wet spots in the road. He counted blocks by the light puddles and the corner bodega radios. His breath smoked out in small clouds that faded quick. He thought about how some machines only start when you push the quarter and slow and steady, how you don't bang the slot. You line it up, let the weight catch, and then the whole thing starts to move. He thought maybe people were like that too. A little guide, a little give. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt a little tired and a little broke and a little warm. His phone buzzed with the shut-off text at midnight, and he set it face down on a chair. He draped the damp towels over the backs of other chairs and left a window open a crack to let the night in. He fell asleep on the couch with the TV on low and a spoon in his pocket because he forgot to put it back. At the laundromat close to midnight, the attendant taped a paper star cut from a receipt to the cracked edge of the counter. The fan puffed it so it fluttered like it wanted to fly. She looked around at the machines and her clean floor and the little jar with 2 new quarters inside. She rubbed her wrist through the brace and smiled to herself, small and private. A quarter rolled into a slot and rang once before it disappeared into the drum.